Well, something is definitely going on with Joe Biden. Not only have the Democrats sought a soft coup against the president, his own people, by the way, but now we're getting notifications that he was rushed or attempted to be rushed to the hospital Wednesday prior to his announcement Sunday that he would be stepping down. Not only that, but Joe Biden has canceled 9 events. And from what I'm hearing, even his meeting with Netanyahu has been canceled. A lot to share with you in today's broadcast. But let's start first with this soft coup I've kind of been talking about on my channel. But here it is on New York Post. Top Democrats threaten to forcibly remove Biden from office unless he dropped out of the race. Set him up to fail at Trump debate, which, by the way, is exactly what I said. I know you guys who have been listening to me know I stated that. But it goes on to state this. Operatives at the very highest level of the Democrat Party threatened President Biden with forcibly removing him from office unless he stepped down, sources told the Post. The well-orchestrated palace coup to stop the faltering president from seeking re-election had been in place for weeks, but stubborn Biden fought it every step of the way, a source close to the Biden family told the Post on Monday. The insider also made clear the anger, paranoia, and frustration Biden displayed as part of the party elite who circled around him and piled on the pressure. Part of the elaborate strategy to remove Biden from the race, as he announced in a shocking letter posted on X on Sunday, was allowing him to debate Republican candidate Donald Trump last month. It goes on. The debate was a setup to convince Democrats that he could not run for president, the source said on Monday. As calls for him to bow out mounted, Biden insisted he would continue, but party bigwigs threatened to invoke the 25th Amendment of the Constitution. And of course, the amendment allows for the VP and members of the cabinet to declare the president unfit to serve and force him to step down, the sources said. Now, I want to give myself a big pat on the back because I said that is exactly what was going to happen, and it was. I specifically said the reason that they're having the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump early and allowing the debate nonetheless was because that was Biden's last chance to prove himself. And everybody knew, both the left and the right, we all knew that he wasn't going to be able to prove himself and that it was going to be a disaster. And I said, if it's a disaster, which we all know it will be, then they are going to immediately call for his resignation from the 2024 presidential race. And that is exactly what happened. Yes, I agree. It was a setup, Mr. Joe Biden. We told you that prior. And now, lo and behold, Kamala Harris has delegates enough. Here she has thehill.com. Harris campaign secures enough delegates for the Democrat nominee. So it's looking like it's going to be Kamala Harris, which is, again, what I predicted. I said she seems to be the most the candidate that they're looking most at because they're really worried about their DEI, and the fact really plays into the Democrat Party, right? So they're worried about backlash from her. So they're putting her up, right? Now, if you really want to get in-depth, detailed information before I get into the hospital and all of that, you got to get to restrictedrepublic.com. Right now, if you use the coupon code LISA and the number 5, you can get it for $5 per month. That is less than a glass of beer, a cup of coffee, even wine. But go to restrictedrepublic.com. We put out some bombshell reports. In fact, I put out a huge report yesterday, and Justice Night is going to be putting out a huge report today that covers everything going on with Kim Sheathel, who, by the way, just resigned from the Secret Service. She should have resigned a long time ago. Thank God she is out. Thankfully, both the left and the right were calling for her resignation after the disaster of Donald Trump. But we really dive into that. So get to restrictedrepublic.com, sign up now, and come and support us there. But with that, let's dive into this emergency hospital visit, which, by the way, apparently they were going so fast in the plane that Joe Biden was in that the plane was shaking. Just telling you what the reports are. But take a look. This is the actual news source that covered it initially. So I'm going to go back to them. 3 News. Las Vegas hospital on standby to treat President Biden during the COVID-19 diagnosis. It goes on. A Las Vegas hospital was on standby after being alerted about a possible medical issue with President Biden Wednesday afternoon when he was visiting Southern Nevada. Law enforcement and medical teams teams gathered outside the University Medical Center trauma room entrance on Wellness Way in case the President of the United States arrived after he canceled an appearance at the Unidos U.S. Convention in Las Vegas due to testing positive to COVID. Now, he ended up not seeking treatment at the hospital, but instead went to the airport and departed Las Vegas on Air Force One in self-isolation in his home in Delaware. Now, that is one of the stories. Now, the story gets more detailed with this article, the dossier, which claims that they have more insight about what went on. But the headline is exclusive. President Biden suffered an undisclosed medical emergency during his time in Las Vegas. And here's what it details, right? According to their sources, the dossier obtained independent testimony from over a half dozen law enforcement officers who participated in the president's security detail and others who spoke from firsthand knowledge of the incident that unfolded that day. For this story, they worked with Turning Point Action to secure testimony of several sources to vet their legitimacy. And here's kind of the testimony and story that they're getting. He was supposed to be scheduled to deliver at Unidos U.S. speech, but all hell broke loose. Several law enforcement officers on duty that day were informed over the radio that the president was dealing with an unspecified medical condition. Far from a case of the sniffles, this was sent out on encrypted police airways as if something akin to a 5-alarm fire had broken out. It goes on. According to these law enforcement sources, the president's motorcade was initially planning on heading to the University Medical Center, which was located about 2 miles up the road from the president's position. However, the president's team decided not to bring him to the hospital. The plans changed in rapid succession once more. It was then relayed over to on-duty officers on the president's detail that they would need to clear an express route to Harry Reid International Airport. The police assigned to the president's detail and the emergency in the box squad then redeployed their resources to getting the president out of town as fast and as safe as humanly possible. Emily Goodwin, the senior White House correspondent for the Daily Mail, reported that on the journey back east, Air Force One flew so fast the plane shook, arriving in Dover in just 3 hours and 45 minutes. Several of the officers that they spoke with said this was indeed being reported and acted upon as a full-blown medical emergency. So these are the different reports that we are getting out about Joe Biden. But I find it interesting, yet again, if you think about the timing, we knew that all over the news that Joe Biden would possibly give his resignation on Sunday, which is what I said was a huge possibility here on my channel. I told you guys well over a year ago this was going to happen. But and then this supposedly happened the Wednesday before that. But Charlie Kirk also is claiming he has sources, and take this with a grain of salt. There's no, I have no verification either way, right? I'm just going to share you his words and you can make the decision. And here's what he says on X. Got a weird lead on a story that people should look into. I got a call from a source close to Las Vegas Metro. The official story was that Joe Biden's trip was cut short last week due to COVID. However, according to this source, U.S. Secret Service informed LV Metro that there was an emergency situation involving Biden and to close necessary streets so that the POTUS could be transported immediately to the university's medical, which they began to do in earnest. Then, mysteriously, there was a stand-down order and the USSS informed local Vegas PD that they were going to medevac POTUS to Johns Hopkins, which they presumed meant fly him back east ASAP. Apparently, the rumor mill in the police department was that Biden was dying or possibly already dead. I don't think too much about this lead, seemed too wild to be true, but given that Joe Biden hasn't been out in public sight for days and dropped out of the race via an X post, his brother James indicated health was a factor. I'm beginning to grow more curious if COVID or something else has been more serious than reported. If anyone has information, please let me know. Now, not just Charlie Kirk, I also saw this on Jennifer Van Laar, who is stating that reporters at Red State have also confirmed the story with the Las Vegas MPD. An additional source, not a medical personnel, in a position to know, tells me that Biden had stroke-like symptoms, but did not elaborate as to what those were. But when the doc traveling with Biden determined it wasn't a full stroke, they could treat it on Air Force One en route to Andrews. The motorcade diverted to the airport, which is rather interesting. So there's rumors and information out there saying he may have had a stroke. Now, again, I cannot confirm or deny this. This is what the rumor mill is out there doing. But what I find interesting is Biden allegedly calls into former campaign headquarters before Kamala Harris speaks. And this is the first time we've heard him say anything publicly. And he's not there in person. This is just via audio, right? He calls in. And what's weird is he kind of does sound like a stroke victim. You're going to slur a little bit with your words. Take a listen to this video recording.
I know yesterday's news was surprising and it's hard for you to hear, but it was the right thing to do. I know it's hard because you poured your heart and soul into me. Say, help us win this thing. Help me get this nomination. Help me win the nomination, and then go on to win the presidency. But you know, you're an amazing team. But we've got a great. I think we made the right decision.
Wow. So you can hear the slur, massive slur, and I feel like it could definitely be something like that. Maybe that's why he hasn't shown his face. I mean, very unfortunate. I don't want anybody to have a stroke. It's a very sad thing, you know, when they do that with their mouth. And I've had friends who have had stroke, and that has happened, and my heart goes out to them. God forbid that something like that happened to me or anyone. But if it did, then he should probably step down from presidency. He should probably do that anyway, because the guy isn't well. But what I find interesting is the way also that Joe Biden was responded to by Kamala Harris, and she talks to him like a freaking toddler. Listen, this is in response to the call.
Joe, are you watching? Do you hear this clapping? Can you see it?
I'm watching. I knew it.
I knew it. Can you see this clapping? Are you watching, baby? Like a freaking toddler. He's not supposed to be the toddler. He's supposed to be the president of the United States of America. And I pray for him and his family if they had a stroke. I don't want harm to come on the president. But here's what he says. Supposedly, the rumor is he's doing fine. POTUS arrives in Dover. I'm doing well, he said. Flight time from Vegas was 3 hours and 48 minutes. And he flew so fast, the plane shook. And here's video footage of him slow walking off the plane there. And we've seen a lot of that lately. So now what's interesting is he's also canceled multiple events. Take a look at this. This is on New York Post. Biden cancels 9 trips, extends Delaware stay after dropping out of 2024 race. Biden has canceled 9 trips that were scheduled for the next 2 weeks after suddenly dropping out of the race. He was scheduled to leave Monday for the West Coast, where he was going to make stops in California, Denver, Houston, and Austin, but all of them have been canceled. Biden, who has been isolating with COVID, was set to leave his home in Delaware on Monday, but extended his stay until Wednesday after announcing the end of his campaign. Now, the sources are not giving us a reason why they have canceled. However, they started canceling stuff when he announced he wasn't seeking re-election, the source said, adding that the trips were a mix of campaign and official presidential stops. So, there you go. Now, we also know we also have information on this, and this is coming from the Gateway Pundit. Whereas Joe, Israeli officials say tomorrow's meeting between PM Netanyahu and missing U.S. President Biden has been canceled. Unclear when or if it will be rescheduled. Now, that's the information that we are getting. Now, Joe Biden's physician has put this out on July 22nd. So just yesterday, he says President Biden completed the 10th dose of Paxlovid this morning. His symptoms have almost resolved completely. His pulse, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and temperature remain normal. And he's in good condition, blah, blah, blah. In other words, he's got a good bill of health. I can't help but say I don't really believe that physician. But anyway, wanted to bring all of this to you. It's just strange. They were announcing that he would possibly give his resignation on Sunday, and that's what he did. And then we all have this talk of coups against him. They're forcing him out. Otherwise, they were going to do the 25th Amendment, which I wholeheartedly believe they would have. And quite frankly, we need to do the 25th Amendment right now because he is not in good health and we need somebody to run this freaking country. And if you're not strong enough to run in a presidential race, then you're not strong enough to be president. So please step down, Joe Biden, or let's do the 25th Amendment. Anyhow, wanted to bring all of that to you. Can't wait to read your comments. I'm Lisa Havens signing out.